Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So, a 2022 Republican candidate named Solomon Pena has been arrested for violent attacks against Democratic officials in the state of New Mexico. Pena ran for office in the midterms. He was trying to unseat the incumbent Democrat in the state House race. He lost that race by about 3,600 votes. And you guys are not going to be surprised to hear he didn't take it so well. Shortly after losing his race, Pena tweeted out a photo of himself wearing a MAGA sweatshirt, and he wrote, quote, "Trump just announced for 2024. I stand with him. I never conceded my HD 14 race, now researching my options." So apparently by options, Pena meant harassment and domestic terrorism, because Pena, who's a convicted felon, by the way, started showing up at officials' homes, and he was showing them paperwork. He was claiming that the election was rigged, surprise, surprise. And then shortly after he showed up at their homes, 4 Democrats were the victims of drive-by shootings. And now these shootings have been tied to Pena, and the authorities say that he was the mastermind behind these shootings. Pena is also accused of personally pulling the trigger in at least one of these drive-by shootings. So here's what allegedly went down. Pena is accused of paying 4 men $500 to carry out these drive-by shootings at the homes of elected officials. Just $500. So the shootings began on December 4th, around 2:30 in the afternoon. There were 8 shots fired into the home of a county commissioner named Adrian Barboa. That shooting appears to have been carried out with a stolen vehicle, as some of the other ones were, because a woman reported that her SUV was stolen between 1 and 6 p.m. that day. And then that night, the woman and her boyfriend were driving home, and they found her SUV parked nearby. And so they got in it, they drove it home, and they found a bullet casing in the vehicle. So they called the police. Sure enough, the casing matched the casings of other bullets that were found near Barboa's home. Several days later, there were several rounds fired at the home of State Representative Javier Martinez. Then on December 11th, more than 12 shots were fired into the home of County Commissioner Debbie O'Malley. In that incident, a neighbor called the police. They reported hearing gunfire, and then the neighbor said, "Yeah, I witnessed a black vehicle. It was like a sporty type of vehicle speeding away from the area." So the neighbor's description matches Pena's car. Pena drives a black Audi. And then on January 3rd of this year, 2023, more than a dozen rounds were fired at the home of State Senator Linda Lopez. So thankfully, no one was injured or killed in these shootings. But in the case of Senator Lopez, 3 bullets passed through her 10-year-old daughter's room while she was sleeping. And there was dust, there was drywall dust in her bed. That's how close it was to her. And it was that incident which led to an arrest and a break in these cases, because around the same time that those shots were fired at Lopez's home, an officer had pulled over a man named Jose Trujillo. So Trujillo was driving a vehicle which was registered to Pena, and the vehicle contained bullet casings. And while the officer was searching his vehicle, he found a Glock and an AR in the trunk of that vehicle, and he found 800 counterfeit oxycodone tablets made with fentanyl. And then there was this stash of cash in a cup holder. And the Glock had a drum magazine inserted into it. And the driver, this Trujillo guy, had an outstanding felony warrant. So he was immediately arrested. And when the authorities tested the casings that were found at Senator Lopez's home, they found that they came from that Glock found in the vehicle that Trujillo was driving. So then the authorities obtained and executed a search warrant on Trujillo's phone, and they found all kinds of text messages between Pena and these 4 suspects. And they included, I mean, it's really damning. It includes the addresses of the 4 officials who were shot, or their homes that were shot. Pena sending them the addresses, and then like a day or two later, the shootings occurred. There was, of course, fake information about Pena's election being stolen. There were details about where these men were meeting, like where Pena was meeting up with them, like parking lots, fast food restaurants. And then there was an image of the Glock that was used in at least one shooting. There was also a photo of Trujillo. He was sitting at a table eating a burger, and there were a bunch of guns sitting in front of him, and he was holding a gun, pointing it up at the ceiling. Then there was also a photo of Trujillo and Pena together sitting in a car. So Pena was arrested on Monday of this week, January 16th, and he was charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm, 4 counts of shooting at occupied dwellings, 4 counts of shooting from a motor vehicle, 4 counts of attempted aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, and criminal solicitation. And the authorities say there are definitely more arrests that will be made soon. There were 2 other shootings, but they took place at the offices of Democrats, so they're still investigating those. But in this case involving the home shootings, they have a confidential informant. This person has agreed to testify against everybody in the case, and it sounds like it might be one of the 4 men that Pena hired, because the arrest warrant for Pena states that this informant, quote, has personal and intimate knowledge of the crimes listed above as they were there or in direct communication with persons who were there, and has provided information to detectives that only someone on the very inner operations of the alleged crimes would have. And according to this informant, Pena wanted to kill these people, or at least to wound them, or at least someone in their home, because the informant told the police that Pena was actually upset because the shooters were aiming above the windows purposely at the homes, and the majority of the shootings were done when everyone was asleep. So it was like early morning hours, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, things like that. So Pena allegedly said, I want you to aim lower, and I want you to do these shootings around 8 p.m. when they're going to be up and walking around. So he wanted people to be injured or killed. And in fact, that's why, according to this informant, Pena took part in the shooting at Lopez's residence. So by the grace of God or the universe, whatever, Pena's weapon jammed during that shooting. The informant said that Pena had an AR and Jose Trujillo had the Glock. Well, Pena's weapon didn't fire correctly, so only Trujillo's shots hit Lopez's home. So this could have easily ended with the death of someone, possibly even a child. All because, if you trace it back, Trump's ego. It is so fragile that he couldn't handle losing the 2020 election. So he convinced about a quarter of the country that if Republicans lose an election, it has to be due to voter fraud. These shootings, like January 6th, they are all the inevitable result of Trump's lies and his allies' lies. This is all, by definition, domestic terrorism. And Trump is a stochastic terrorist. He's the one who set all this in motion. And this is what the Republican Party has become. They are the party of domestic terrorism and lies. This is what and who they now attract. As the saying goes, your vibe attracts your tribe. The Republican Party now attracts the most heinous and vile candidates. Pathological liars like George Santos, QAnon, Jewish space laser conspiracy theorists like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And now you've got these ex-cons with homicidal tendencies like this Pena guy. And there's lots more, guys. There's a lot more where this guy came from, which I'll be sharing with you guys over the next coming weeks. I've got some stories banked that I've set aside, but in light of this story, I think it's time that we pull the mask off and show who they are attracting. When I hear more, I will let you know. There will definitely be more arrests. Like I said, there's those other 2 cases that involved shootings, but they were at the offices of Democratic officials, but also in New Mexico. So we don't know if they are related. We don't know if they're like copycats. we don't know if there's just another psycho out there. So I'll let you know when I hear more. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please donate or become a monthly supporter. Links are down below in the description box, or you can just smash that button up at the top and leave a super thanks. I greatly appreciate it. Love you guys. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.